All right, here we are. Here you are, lesson 196. Oh, and if you're just joining me for the first time here today, well, welcome. You've dropped in right in the middle of the famous, or if you prefer, infamous workbook for students of A Course in Miracles. And welcome, first of all. Thanks for tuning in here on YouTube. And if you're catching me on Enlightened World Network, welcome very much. This series of videos began as a live stream on Enlightened World Network, and the content is still being offered there on the YouTube channel for the network. So thank you all for tuning in. Wherever you're joining me from, well, lesson 196 is not lesson one, is it? So if you're just popping in and you're at all inclined to delve into this project, this journey, this path, this walk, this thing called the workbook for students, and you've got to start at lesson one. So I invite you to do that, and let me know if you have any questions about that. Now, the videos are all available. I'm going through all of the workbook for students in its entirety, from lesson 1 to lesson 365, and then some. And there are some additional supplemental videos along the way here. And I invite you to check them all out if you're so inclined. And if you want to ask me questions about this, I'm right there and ready to answer any of those. A Course in Miracles has been the foundational centerpiece of my own spiritual practice since 2013. And now I have studied Christianity. I was raised in a couple of different fundamentalist Christian churches. I've studied Buddhism extensively and shamanism extensively. So what I found in A Course in Miracles is a perfect combination of East and West, a beautiful presentation of universal spiritual truths that's not a religion. Yeah, that's important, isn't it? That doesn't require you to believe certain things. That doesn't require you to abandon something that may be working beautifully and perfectly well for you in favor of something else, something that doesn't claim to be superior to any other spiritual practice on the planet. Because one with does not mean superior to, right? Superior to is a comparison. It assumes that there are differences. It assumes there's contrast, and it assumes there's a separation between one entity and another. Yeah, there's not. A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum, meaning you take what you want to take at a given time. Does not mean you can establish the curriculum. I didn't say that. Jesus said that. Yeah, it means that you can go at your own pace. You can take a piece here, a piece there, or you can delve wholeheartedly into it. The choice is yours. It's self-study. The last thing that the world needs is another religion. This is not a religion, thank God, right? The last thing the world needs is someone to turn on YouTube, turn on a camera and a microphone like I just have, and that I do pretty much every day, and preach. Now, no way. We don't need that. That's another round of crap we don't need to eat, right? For sure. And enter A Course in Miracles as a self-study curriculum. And one of the beautiful things about this is not only are you encouraged to go at your own pace and take what you want at any given time, but you're also invited to question everything that I say. Oh yeah, question everything that I say. I want you to. I so want you to, because in doing that, you're questioning something we're going to talk about today, which is the existence of the ego. It's not existent, but we don't see it that way when we're caught up in our own drama in the world. So if you're questioning everything that I say, if you question everything that Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, excellent, wonderful, so be it. We're not here to compel belief. I'm here to share my experience with you, and in hopes that it will inspire you to take action yourself. Salvation depends on you. I can't wipe away all of your past misdeeds. I cannot wipe away and give you a clean slate in your life, like spraying Windex on a pane of glass, going on, rubbing through, and all of a sudden you can see, no, you do the work yourself. But here's the beauty of all that. You've got help along the way. Just like I have help along the way. We all have help along the way. So there's a very interesting reason that I'd love to know why you're watching this right now when you could be watching anything else on YouTube. Because there's a lot of crap out there, yeah. There are a lot of pet videos out there. Some of them are really cute and heartwarming and fun. You could be watching that. You could be watching a recent episode of Family Guy on YouTube because they're all there. You could be watching a music video. I mean, there's a lot of phenomena out there, right? Yet you're watching this. You are compelled to look at some dude from Phoenix, Arizona, talking about A Course in Miracles. You're compelled and drawn to this right now, today. There's a reason for that. So I invite you to just hold that in mind before we even get into the lesson for today. Just hold that in mind. There's a reason why you're paying attention to this. If you're watching from Enlightened World Network, there's a reason for that. The network is all about spirituality. I mean, what else, right? Yeah. Let's pay attention to what's going on in your life. And it's a very interesting question. Why is this material so resonant with me? Well, all I can do is tell you from my own perspective why it's so resonant with me, why it was in 2013 when it found me, not I found it. It's not the way it worked. That was 8 years ago. So why is it resonant with you? Yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? All right, so let's get into the lesson for today. And, well, I've said this in many of the videos. It's a powerful lesson. Gosh, guess what? They're all powerful. They're all powerful, and lesson 196 is no exception. And there's a lot that we can say about it. And the simplicity of it is beautiful, just as the simplicity of every idea in the workbook is beautiful. And lesson 196 just tells us, comes right out and tells us, it can be, but myself I crucify. Now let's unpack this one. It can be, but myself I crucify. Lesson 196. Okay. Yeah, what's going on with this one? It's very interesting, is it not? And deliberate, Jesus's choice of words here. Crucify myself. It can be, but myself I crucify. Here's what we mean by that. When you lash out at somebody, at whom are you in fact lashing out? Well, it may look like you're lashing out at your neighbor or your political opponent. It could be your spouse. I don't know. It could be somebody that cut you off in traffic on the freeway. There's a lot of that in the world, right? It could be somebody that offended you with a violent tweet. Could be someone that posted something on their Facebook page that you didn't agree with for whatever reason. It doesn't make any difference. You see people as separate from you. So when you lash out at them, At whom are you really lashing out? Well, it appears you're lashing out at them. It appears that you're striking down your vengeance from on high upon someone else. Emphasis on the word else. Separate. Yeah. That's what it appears here. And when you take this idea in the workbook to heart, when you begin to deeply contemplate it and allow this to move you to your core, then you will begin to have very interesting things happen in your life. Very, oh yeah. It's very interesting. It can be but yourself that you crucify. When you lash out at someone, you are lashing out at yourself. How do we really know this in the world? Well, we feel it. When you lash out at someone else, you feel it viscerally. Does it feel good? Maybe in the moment, right? Maybe in the moment, it feels good to tell someone to go straight to hell because they said something like that to you. Maybe they said something worse than that to you, yeah? Maybe you said something worse than that in reply to them. Does it alleviate the suffering we find in life, in our daily life, and in our own experience? That the answer is no. It does not alleviate suffering. Why does it not alleviate suffering? Because you feel guilty for it. You feel bad. And if you say something or do something or act a certain way and you're in a fit of rage, even immediately after, is that joy? Is that the peace of God? Is that the peace of God? No, of course it's not. And we know that instinctively in our core when we lash out at someone. Now, we are conditioned to lash out at people. In this world, you're conditioned, as every human being is conditioned, to respond a certain way to perceived threats. Take this idea to heart. It can be but yourself that you crucify. And the word crucify is placed here intentionally. It can be but yourself that you flog. It can be but yourself that you burden with a heavy wooden cross that you're forcing yourself to drag through the streets, to the jeers of all the onlookers and the taunts of the soldiers guarding you and prodding you. It can be but yourself that you nail up to that cross, and it can be but yourself that hangs from it. Every single word of A Course in Miracles is placed deliberately. When you lash out at people, at others, you crucify yourself. It can be but yourself that you crucify. This principle simply operates. It's the way that it works. Now, we instinctively realize that there is no separation of any kind. So, in practicing an idea such as today's, you begin to teach yourself and others, same, right? You begin to teach yourself something fundamentally different. You begin to teach yourself that you are not an ego. When you viscerally accept it can be but yourself that you crucify, a realization begins to set in that you are not an ego. You are not a body, and you are not a body. You know this. We all know that you're not a body. We're intense about the presentation of this because it's an intense and a serious subject, but you have to be able to laugh at yourself too, okay? We just want to throw that in there. You begin to teach yourself in accepting today's idea and practicing it that you're not an ego, that you're not a body. That means that you haven't harmed the world. If you're not a body, neither are supposedly what we call they, the others' bodies. They're not, you're not, we're not. That means that you have not harmed them. It can be but yourself you crucify. So when you see yourself as cut off and separate and act on that, you're harming yourself. You haven't harmed them. So in accepting today's idea, not only can you begin to take very massive steps, huge steps toward not seeing yourself as an ego, to seeing yourself as something other than that, to seeing yourself as something other than a body, you also alleviate your own guilt. You haven't harmed anyone. No matter what you may have done, no matter what you appear to have done or appear to have said or thought, you have not harmed them, whoever they may appear to be. It can be but yourself that you crucify. So, why am I laughing? Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, really, truly, then that's something to be looked at, isn't it? I mean, the ways that we get in our own way, right, as human beings. One of the, something that's really tremendously funny is one of my favorite teachers from this lifetime, Lama Michael Conklin of Kagyu Changchu Chuling in Portland, Oregon. That's a Tibetan Buddhist center up in Portland. And one of my favorite teachers, he just laughed one time. We were having a conversation. He just laughed, and belly laughter, really wonderful, a lot of humor. And he just said, oh, the ways we fuck up as human beings. Right? It's funny, not funny. Yeah. But how do you develop a sense of humor around practice? Well, the more you do it, the more you realize how utterly ridiculous some of the things we do and say really are. In light of truth, it's kind of comical. And you begin to, as you become more forgiving, you forgive yourself. This is really important. You forgive others, yes, of course, but in so doing, you're forgiving yourself. It can be but yourself that you crucify. It can be but yourself that you forgive. Same, yeah? It can be but yourself that you love when you extend love. There is no separation of any kind. So you begin to develop this sense of humor in spiritual practice because, well, the things we do are kind of ridiculous. And you begin to love yourself. You begin to have a compassion for yourself that allows you to lighten up. It does. It allows you to lighten up and, yes, take your practice seriously, but not too seriously, right? We all understand instinctively, intuitively, that there's a balance out there to be struck. It's a very serious idea, yet The converse here, in terms of language, is also true. It can be but yourself that you crucify. It can also be but yourself that you love and forgive and hug. Yeah? Seriously. When you smile at someone else, you're smiling at yourself. When you laugh, you're laughing and you're extending humor and good glad-heartedness to yourself. When you tell someone you love them, you're telling yourself that you love yourself. Now, naturally, the day's idea, it can be about yourself that you hang up on the cross, torture, and crucify. Yeah. So whatever you say, think, and do, think of it this way: you're doing it to yourself. So what better incentive could there be to extend love? Really, what better incentive could there be to extend love? All right, guys, thank you for joining me here today.